small country, as you know, and what we thought when I started out in online in 1994, 1995, and launched the first B2B e-commerce portal, was that in countries like Norway, Sweden, Germany, the large countries in Europe is where e-commerce would take off. It has taken off in those countries, but in Denmark, non-food retail revenue is 17% of the total revenue in the country on and off season. So that would indicate a little bit where this might be going in India 10, 15 years from now. And as Jesse said, I think it's very important that retailers think about this. When does the purchase process start? I think in India, for those 15% of the population who are online, it also starts for many of them online, doesn't it? And then they want to interact with the physical presence at some point. It would be great if we had some real numbers instead of guessing a little bit or second guessing at what Macy's doing outside of season, because I think I've been through this process coming from Denmark, right, where internet penetration is more than 90% now. And I hear the same thing today here, which is wonderful, as I did 15 years ago at conferences in Denmark. I think that's interesting. That's just my point.
So, the truth is that the purpose of taking this time was, I don't think, it's not that online retail is not going to take off. We recognize that it would come about in the multiplex business. See, I'm not going to comment about businesses that I don't really have a say in. We're in the business of operating multiplexes. We're in cookies. We're in a restaurant's presence. Now, in our restaurant business, my online purchases are negligible. Nobody's doing anything online. But we went online in the multiplex business in India about 13 years ago, when most people didn't think it would happen. And why is the consumer going online? It's simply the fact that if we're giving him the choice, we're making his purchase cycle very simple. So he can actually go through the process and then decide where his seats are, etc. But the Indian consumer hasn't evolved to the point yet where they're ready to even make a decision on their food purchase. Now that's not happening. We're hoping that that evolution will also happen. Currently, close to 20% of multiplex tickets are online. And we're probably amongst the best there is in the country in this evolution. Now, eventually, I believe that online retail will become essential for every offline retailer. Not for anything else, but there's going to be a consumer. There are going to be periods when your physical presence will not work for the consumer, for whatever reasons. Because like Macy's found out, at season everybody wants to buy. So Mrs. Fields recognized that 30 years ago. And for Mrs. Fields, which is the world's largest cookie company, close to 45–50% of their gifting sales is an online purchase. Right? Now that's the direction India is going to go. But the fact of the matter remains that over 50% of our consumers will never get access to a computer, at least not in the next 10 years. Therefore, offline presences are going to be the way for every brand to grow. There will be the technologically advanced who will adapt early. And that's going to remain a very small percentage. It's not going to pick up in large volumes for several years to come. See, it's a weird thing, but people talk about ice cream, for example. Should be a very large market. We're one of the hottest countries in the world, right? Our consumption of ice cream is less than a tenth on a per capita basis to that of a Denmark, to that of an Australia, to that of the US, in spite of us being tropical. The reason is the cost of putting deep freezers in your houses. The number of people who can afford a deep freezer, very small. So ice cream consumption is completely on-site. People eat it in the restaurant, very few take it home. The number of people who have it at home is very small. It's the same problem with the online problem. Just trying to connect them. The number of guys who are going to have a computer, who are technically advanced enough to do these purchases, very small. That will change. We'll be very lucky if it comes to 17% in the next 10 years, right? I don't think it'll ever get to much larger than that until we actually see the per capita move. Until our GDP, the per capita start to move up, until those get into the $4,000-5,000 per annum per person. This is not, online retailing is not going to become significant.
All right, so we